Weddings are supposed to be about love conquering all. But standing in St. Mary's Cathedral watching my son marry the woman who'd been systematically destroying our family for 2 years, I knew this ceremony was about something much darker. When my future daughter-in-law Lisa leaned over and whispered, "She doesn't belong here," while staring directly at my daughter Amy, I felt my blood turn to ice. Then Father Martinez paused mid-ceremony, looked directly at Lisa, and said the words that would expose everything. "Before we continue, there's something this congregation needs to know about the bride." The entire church goes silent. 200 guests sitting in oak pews stop breathing as Father Martinez sets down his prayer book and looks out over the congregation. My son Mike is standing at the altar in his rented tuxedo, his face shifting from confusion to panic as he realizes something is terribly wrong. Lisa, stunning in her white designer gown that cost more than most people's cars, has gone completely pale except for 2 bright red spots on her cheeks. But I'm focused on my daughter Amy, sitting in the 3rd row wearing the blue dress Lisa specifically told her not to wear because it would clash with the wedding photos. Amy's hands are gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles are white, and there are tears streaming down her face that she's trying desperately to hide. She's 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and she's been living in terror for the past 2 years because of the woman my son is trying to marry. Father Martinez clears his throat and looks directly at Lisa. "Yesterday afternoon, someone came to my office with information that I am morally obligated to share before I can perform this ceremony." His voice echoes through the vaulted ceiling of the cathedral. Information about threats made against a family member, about manipulation and emotional abuse, and about a pattern of behavior that goes against everything marriage is supposed to represent. The church erupts in whispers and gasps. Wedding guests are turning to each other with shocked faces. Lisa's mother is standing up in the front row, her mouth hanging open. And my son Mike looks like he's about to pass out. That's when I realize Amy didn't just endure Lisa's abuse for 2 years, she documented it. And yesterday, my brave daughter finally found the courage to tell someone in authority exactly what kind of person my son was about to marry. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to choose between keeping family peace and protecting someone you love. Because what happened next proved that sometimes the truth is more important than a perfect wedding. Let me tell you about the people whose lives were about to explode in that cathedral, because everyone had secrets and everyone had been playing roles for far too long. Lisa Davis is 26, beautiful and charming to adults, but her fatal flaw is a need to control and dominate everyone around her, especially anyone she sees as competition for attention. Her inability to share affection or allow others to be happy made her systematically target my daughter with psychological abuse disguised as helpful guidance. Mike Thompson is my son, 28, kind-hearted and trusting to a fault, but his weakness is that he desperately wants to be loved and will overlook red flags to avoid conflict. His need for approval made him blind to Lisa's treatment of his sister and willing to sacrifice family relationships to keep his fiancée happy. Amy Thompson is my daughter, 18, intelligent and artistic but struggling with confidence, which made her the perfect target for Lisa's manipulation. Her youth and desire to be liked made her vulnerable to emotional abuse, but her strength and integrity ultimately gave her the courage to speak truth to power. Father Martinez is 52, the parish priest who's known our family for 15 years, ethical and protective of his congregation, but his flaw is that he usually stays out of family conflicts unless they involve moral obligations. His duty to prevent harm made him willing to stop a wedding to protect an abuse victim. Grace Thompson is Lisa's maid of honor and best friend, 25, who's been watching Lisa's behavior for years but staying silent, and her weakness is that she values social harmony over doing what's right. Her knowledge of Lisa's true nature made her complicit in the abuse through her silence. And me? I'm Janet Thompson, 51, Mike and Amy's mother, protective of my children but guilty of trying to keep peace instead of confronting problems directly. My fatal flaw was hoping Lisa would change if I just gave her enough chances, instead of protecting my daughter from the very beginning. This story reveals family dynamics that will shock you, and I want to know what you think about the choices these people made. Have you ever watched someone you love be mistreated but stayed quiet to avoid drama? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments, because family loyalty gets complicated when someone's being hurt, and sometimes staying silent makes you part of the problem. The trouble started 2 years ago when Mike brought Lisa home for Christmas dinner. She was everything a mother hopes for in a daughter-in-law on the surface. Polite, well-educated, from a good family, clearly devoted to my son. She complimented my cooking, brought thoughtful gifts, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know our family traditions. But I started noticing small things during that first visit. The way Lisa's smile would fade when Amy spoke, how she would interrupt Amy's stories or redirect conversations away from my daughter's accomplishments. When Amy showed Lisa her latest painting, something she'd been working on for months, Lisa's response was, "That's nice, sweetie. Very beginner-friendly." The comment hit Amy like a slap, but before I could respond, Lisa had already moved on to asking Mike about his work promotion, effectively dismissing Amy and her art in one smooth motion. Amy's face crumpled for just a second before she forced a smile and excused herself to help in the kitchen. Over the following months, as Mike and Lisa's relationship became more serious, the pattern intensified. Lisa would make cutting remarks about Amy's appearance, her college choices, her friends, always couched in language that sounded helpful or caring. "Amy, honey, are you sure you want to wear that to dinner? It's a little young for the restaurant we're going to." I just think Amy might want to consider a more practical major than art. I'm only saying this because I care. The worst part was that Mike couldn't see it. When I tried to talk to him about Lisa's treatment of his sister, he defended her. "Mom, Lisa's just trying to help Amy mature. She comes from a family where people are direct with each other. It's not mean, it's honest." Amy started withdrawing from family gatherings when Lisa wouldn't be there. She'd find excuses to leave early or skip events entirely. When I asked her about it, she'd just shrug and say, "Lisa doesn't really like me, and that's okay. I don't want to cause problems for Mike." But it wasn't okay. My confident, artistic daughter was becoming quiet and self-doubting. She stopped showing us her paintings. She started questioning every outfit choice, every opinion, every decision. Lisa was systematically tearing down Amy's confidence, and she was doing it so subtly that even Amy wasn't fully aware of what was happening. The engagement announcement 8 months ago should have been a celebration. Instead, it became the beginning of the most stressful period our family had ever experienced. Lisa took control of every aspect of wedding planning, making decisions that seemed designed to exclude or minimize Amy's role in the family. Amy wasn't chosen as a bridesmaid because Lisa claimed her friend group was very close-knit and she didn't want to upset the dynamics. Amy wasn't invited to the bridal shower because it was just for Lisa's college friends. When Amy asked if she could help with any wedding preparations, Lisa told her, "That's so sweet, but wedding planning is really complicated. I think it's better if the adults handle it." Amy was 18 years old. She wasn't a child, but Lisa consistently treated her like one, always in front of Mike, always with a sweet smile that made any objection seem unreasonable. What I didn't know until much later was that Lisa's treatment of Amy extended far beyond what I witnessed at family gatherings. She had been conducting a systematic campaign of psychological manipulation designed to isolate Amy from the family and undermine her relationship with Mike. Lisa would text Amy privately with advice that was actually calculated to make her feel insecure and unwanted. Screenshots that Amy later showed me revealed messages like, "I hope you know how much Mike loves you, but he's been telling me he's worried about your future. Maybe you should think about ways to make him proud of having you as a sister." Another message read, "Your mom mentioned you've been having trouble in school. I told her I thought you might be going through a difficult phase, but that most girls your age struggle with identity issues. Don't worry, you'll probably grow out of it." Lisa had never discussed Amy's school performance with me, and Amy wasn't having any academic trouble. But the message accomplished its purpose, making Amy believe that everyone in the family was discussing her problems behind her back and that Lisa was somehow defending her against worse criticism. The most insidious part of Lisa's strategy was how she positioned herself as Amy's advocate while simultaneously undermining her. "I keep telling Mike he needs to spend more time with you, but you know how busy he is with work and wedding planning. I'm sure he'll have more time for family after we're married and settled." The implication was clear. Amy's relationship with her brother was suffering because of Amy's neediness, not because Mike was prioritizing his fiancée over his family. Lisa was rewriting the narrative to make Amy feel guilty for wanting attention from her own brother. Lisa also began creating situations designed to make Amy look bad in front of the family. She would ask Amy to help with tasks that were deliberately set up for failure, then express disappointment when things went wrong. "Amy, could you pick up my dress from the alteration shop? Here's the address." But the address would be wrong, or the shop would be closed, or there would be some other issue that made Amy look irresponsible or unreliable. When Amy would return empty-handed and explain what happened, Lisa would sigh and say, "Oh, that's okay, sweetie. I should have known it was too complicated. I'll handle it myself." The message to everyone listening was that Amy couldn't be trusted with simple responsibilities. The situation reached a crisis point 6 weeks before the wedding, when Lisa asked Amy to be her personal assistant for the day, helping with last-minute wedding preparations. I thought it was a positive sign. Maybe Lisa was finally making an effort to include Amy in the wedding festivities. What actually happened was a day-long humiliation designed to break Amy's spirit completely. Lisa had Amy running errands all over town, picking up flowers, confirming vendor appointments, delivering payments to various suppliers. But every task came with impossible demands or contradictory instructions. The flowers need to be exactly this shade of pink, and if they're not perfect, we'll need to find a different florist. Tell the caterer that I want to change the menu, but don't let them charge us extra for the changes. Pick up my shoes from the store, but make sure they polish them first, and if they can't do it perfectly, we need a full refund. Amy spent 12 hours trying to meet these impossible standards, getting yelled at by vendors who couldn't accommodate last-minute changes, being made to feel responsible for problems that were actually caused by Lisa's unreasonable demands. The breaking point came at the final stop of the day. Lisa had sent Amy to pick up the wedding favors, small silver picture frames that were supposed to hold photos of Mike and Lisa. But when Amy arrived at the shop, she discovered that Lisa had called ahead and told them Amy was just the help and shouldn't be allowed to see the actual favors because she might spoil the surprise. Amy stood in that gift shop, being treated like hired staff instead of the groom's sister, and finally understood that this wasn't about wedding stress or personality conflicts. This was deliberate, calculated cruelty designed to make her feel like she didn't belong in her own family. That night, Amy came to my room and broke down completely. Through tears, she told me everything. 2 years of subtle manipulation, constant criticism disguised as concern, deliberate exclusion from family activities, and systematic attempts to damage her relationships with Mike and me. "Mom," she sobbed, "Lisa doesn't just dislike me, she wants me gone. She wants Mike to choose between her and me, and she's been working for 2 years to make sure he chooses her." The next day was Friday, 2 days before the wedding. Amy made a decision that took more courage than anything I'd ever seen from someone so young. She asked me to drive her to St. Mary's Cathedral to speak with Father Martinez. Father Martinez had known Amy since she was 6 years old. He'd watched her grow up in our parish, celebrated her achievements, supported her through difficult times. When Amy walked into his office that Friday afternoon and told him what had been happening, he listened with the seriousness of someone who understood the gravity of the situation. Amy didn't just tell him about Lisa's treatment of her. She showed him 2 years of saved text messages, recorded voicemails, emails, and a detailed journal she'd been keeping of incidents where Lisa had deliberately tried to humiliate or exclude her. The evidence was overwhelming. Message after message showing a pattern of psychological abuse. Voicemails where Lisa's tone changed completely when she thought no one else could hear. Email exchanges where Lisa discussed managing Amy's role in the family. But the most damning evidence was a recording Amy had made during that horrible day of wedding errands. Lisa, thinking Amy was out of earshot, had called Grace to complain about having to include Mike's bratty sister in wedding activities. "I swear, Grace, she's like a puppy that won't go away. I've tried everything to make her understand she's not welcome, but she just keeps trying to be part of the family. After the wedding, I'm going to make sure Mike understands that his loyalty needs to be to his wife, not his spoiled little sister." Grace's response was equally telling. "Are you sure that's fair? She seems like a sweet kid." Lisa's laugh was cold. "Sweet doesn't matter. What matters is that she learns her place. Mike can have a relationship with her, but it needs to be on my terms. When I allow it, and only if she follows the rules I set." Father Martinez listened to this recording in his office that Friday afternoon, and I watched his expression change from concern to horror to righteous anger. "Amy," he said gently, "what Lisa is doing to you is a form of abuse. It's calculated, it's deliberate, and it's designed to isolate you from your family. I cannot, in good conscience, perform a marriage ceremony for someone who treats family members this way." Amy broke down crying again. "But I don't want to ruin Mike's wedding. I don't want to hurt him." Father Martinez took her hands. "Sweetheart, you're not ruining anything. You're preventing your brother from making a terrible mistake. Lisa doesn't love your family. She sees your family as obstacles to overcome. That's not the foundation for a healthy marriage." Saturday morning arrived with the kind of gray sky that makes you wonder if even the weather knew something was wrong. The cathedral was decorated beautifully, flowers everywhere, candles lit, everything picture perfect for what should have been the happiest day of Mike's life. I sat in the second row watching my son at the altar, so handsome in his tuxedo, so hopeful and excited. Lisa walked down the aisle looking like a princess, her dress flowing behind her, her smile radiant. For a moment, I almost doubted what we were about to do. Then I looked at Amy, sitting beside me in that blue dress Lisa had told her not to wear, and I remembered why we were here. My daughter deserved to be protected. My son deserved to know the truth about the woman he was marrying, and Lisa deserved to face consequences for 2 years of deliberate cruelty. The ceremony proceeded normally at first. Father Martinez went through the traditional opening remarks, spoke about love and commitment, asked the congregation to support the couple in their marriage. Lisa was glowing, probably thinking she'd won, that she'd successfully manipulated her way into becoming the most important person in Mike's life. Then came the moment Father Martinez had warned us about. Instead of proceeding directly to the vows, he paused and looked out over the congregation. "Before we continue with this ceremony, I need to address something that was brought to my attention yesterday. Someone in this family has been suffering in silence for far too long, and it would be wrong for me to unite 2 people in marriage while that suffering continues." The church went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Yesterday afternoon, Amy Thompson came to my office with evidence of systematic emotional abuse and manipulation. For 2 years, she has endured treatment designed to make her feel unwanted and unloved in her own family. This behavior has been perpetrated by someone who claims to care about this family, but whose actions show a pattern of calculated cruelty. Father Martinez looked directly at Lisa. "Lisa Davis, you have spent 2 years trying to destroy a young woman's confidence and relationship with her family. You have used manipulation, psychological abuse, and deliberate exclusion to try to force Amy out of her brother's life. This is not love. This is not family. And I cannot perform a marriage ceremony that celebrates the union of someone capable of such deliberate harm." The explosion of sound that followed was unlike anything I'd ever heard in a church. Gasps, shouts, people standing up. Lisa's family demanding explanations. But through it all, I watched my son's face as he looked from Father Martinez to Lisa to Amy, and I saw the exact moment when he finally understood what had been happening. The aftermath was chaos, but it was honest chaos. Lisa's family was furious, demanding to know why this couldn't have been handled privately. Mike was devastated, not just about the wedding being stopped, but about finally understanding how blind he'd been to his sister's suffering. And Amy, my brave daughter Amy, was crying but also standing straighter than I'd seen her stand in 2 years. Lisa herself went through several stages in those first few minutes after Father Martinez's announcement. First, denial. This is ridiculous. Amy is being dramatic. Then anger. How dare you ruin my wedding based on lies from a jealous child? Then bargaining. Mike, you know I love your family. We can work this out. But Mike was looking at Amy with horror in his eyes. Is this true? Has Lisa been treating you badly this whole time? And when Amy nodded, tears streaming down her face, I watched my son's world collapse and rebuild itself in the space of a heartbeat. The wedding that didn't happen became the family intervention we desperately needed. That afternoon, in the parish hall that had been decorated for a reception that would never occur, our family had the most honest conversations we'd ever had. Mike apologized to Amy over and over, devastated that his desire to be loved had made him ignore his sister's pain. Amy forgave him, because that's who she is, but she also made it clear that any future relationships he had would need to include respect for her place in the family. I apologized to both of my children for not protecting Amy sooner, for choosing peace over confronting abuse, for hoping things would get better instead of taking action when I saw what was happening. And Amy, my incredible daughter, told us that despite everything she'd endured, she was glad it happened because it taught her to recognize manipulation and stand up for herself. I know now that love doesn't look like control, she said. Real love makes you feel safer and stronger, not smaller and afraid. 3 months later, Mike started dating someone new, a teacher named Rebecca, who immediately invited Amy to join them for lunch so she could get to know her boyfriend's sister. The difference in how Rebecca treats Amy versus how Lisa treated her is like night and day. Rebecca asks Amy about her art, celebrates her achievements, and treats her like a valued family member, not a threat to be eliminated. Lisa, meanwhile, has been posting passive-aggressive social media content about family betrayal and people who can't handle strong women. She's painted herself as the victim of a conspiracy rather than acknowledging her behavior. But her own friends are starting to distance themselves as they recognize the patterns that Amy documented so carefully. The most important outcome is that Amy is thriving now. She's confident again, creating beautiful art, excited about starting college in the fall. She learned that speaking truth to power, even when it's scary, is sometimes the only way to protect yourself and the people you love. This story of courage triumphing over manipulation shows how important it is to believe victims and protect the vulnerable. If you've ever seen someone being emotionally abused and wondered whether you should speak up, this story proves that silence helps the abuser, not the victim. Smash that like button right now if you believe in standing up for family members who can't protect themselves. My favorite part was Amy finding the courage to document everything and speak to Father Martinez. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below. Father Martinez told me later that stopping a wedding is one of the hardest things a priest can do, but allowing abuse to continue under the guise of keeping peace would have been a sin against everything marriage is supposed to represent. Lisa thought she could manipulate her way into our family and eliminate anyone who threatened her control. She thought Amy was too young and too scared to fight back. She thought Mike's love would make him blind to her cruelty forever. But she underestimated the power of truth, the courage of a teenage girl who refused to be silently destroyed, and the moral authority of someone willing to put justice above social convention. That wedding dress is probably still hanging in a closet somewhere, an expensive reminder that love built on manipulation and control isn't love at all. It's just another form of abuse, dressed up in white satin, and promises that were never meant to be kept. Amy belongs everywhere she chooses to be, and now everyone knows it. Don't miss more incredible stories of courage and family protection. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Because sometimes the most important weddings are the ones that never happen.